I let my neighbor crash on my couch when his girlfriend kicked him out. One morning, I woke up to him hosting a poker game in my living room and charging entry. "You're too soft to say no," he said, laughing. I wasn't too soft to change the locks, and alright, so this happened about a year ago, and I still think about it way more than I should. I live alone in a small two-bedroom apartment in Columbus, Ohio. Nothing fancy, but it's quiet, and it's mine. I work from home, keep to myself, and until all this happened, I honestly thought I was the kind of person people could count on. Mark lived down the hall from me. We weren't close, but we'd talk sometimes, running into each other while grabbing mail, sharing beers on the steps during the summer. That kind of thing. He was loud, always cracking jokes, always knew someone new. I didn't think much of it at the time. One night around 11 p.m., I got a knock on the door. It was Mark, holding a trash bag of clothes and a half-eaten slice of pizza. He said, "Claire kicked me out."
Just for a night or two, man.
"I just need a place to crash." I hesitated, but I opened the door. I told him he could use the couch. He crashed. One night turned into a weekend, then into the next week. At first, he said he was trying to figure things out. Said he was texting Claire, hoping they'd work it out. Then, he stopped mentioning her altogether. He started staying out late, sleeping in until noon, eating my food like it was a shared fridge. Once, I came home from a grocery run and found him smoking in the living room with his shoes on my coffee table. I said something, kinda half-joking, but he just laughed and said, "You're too nice to care." I should have said more then, but I didn't. The worst part? He was good at making you feel like you were being uptight for wanting basic respect. Like it was weird I didn't want his friend to use my shower. Or that I asked him to help clean up after spilling nacho cheese on my carpet. Then came the poker game. That morning, I woke up to loud voices. I thought maybe the TV was on too loud. But it was laughter, real, echoing laughter, and the sound of clinking glasses. I stepped out of my bedroom and froze. There were 7 guys in my living room. A folding table was set up.
Cards.
Chips. Empty beer cans. Mark was at the head of the table, wearing sunglasses indoors and holding a stack of cash like he was running a damn tournament. "What the hell is this?" I asked. Mark looked over, smiling like I'd walked in on a surprise party. "Poker night, man. You wanna play?" "In my apartment? Where else?" He shrugged. "It's a great setup." They each paid 20 to buy in. "Wait, you charge people? You're making money off my living room?" He grinned. "You're too soft to say no." That hit different. Like a slap with a smile. The other guys barely looked up. I didn't say anything. I turned around, went into my room, and closed the door. I sat on my bed and stared at the wall. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was just shocked. Like someone had flipped the script, and I was the one out of place in my own home. I didn't even argue with him. I just called a locksmith. The guy came that afternoon. Mark was out again, probably grabbing food or God knows what. I had him change both locks. He asked if I wanted to keep a spare for roommates. I said no. I wanted to be alone again. When Mark came back around 6 p.m., he slammed into the door. I watched through the peephole as he rattled the knob and cursed. I opened the door a crack. He looked stunned. "What's this?" "I changed the locks." "You serious?" "Dude, come on. You need to go, Mark. You don't live here. You don't even ask anymore. You just take." "Are you really being like this over some cards? You know how many times I've let people crash at my place. Then why aren't you at their place now?" He went quiet. That smugness slipped. He looked pissed now. "So you're just kicking me out?"
That's cold, man.
"No," I said, and my voice shook. "What you did was cold. You used me. You thought I wouldn't say anything because I'm quiet. Because I don't yell. But that doesn't mean I'm okay with it." He threw his hands up. "Whatever. Enjoy your little sad apartment." He walked away without looking back. I stood there for a long time before closing the door. But that wasn't the end. Not really. Because after that, things started happening. Small things. At first, the day after I changed the locks, I found a smear of ketchup on my door handle. I figured it was kids, maybe just random. But then it happened again 2 days later, this time mustard, smeared across the peephole. Then someone stuffed a bunch of fast food napkins into the keyhole. I had to dig them out with a paperclip just to unlock the door. I knew it was Mark. No proof, just gut instinct. It had his kind of dumb written all over it, just petty enough to get under my skin but not enough to be a crime. I didn't report it. I told myself it wasn't worth it. But every time I walked past that door, I felt tense. I started checking the hallway before I stepped outside. Started locking my door, even when I was home. It was like I couldn't relax anymore, like he was still living in my head even though he wasn't on my couch. Then it escalated. One morning, I left to get groceries. When I came back, someone had scratched rat into my driver's side door. Deep, ugly gouges that went through the paint. It was a cheap car already had dents, but still, that word burned. It was personal. I called the building manager. She said there were no cameras in the lot. She asked if I had any enemies. I didn't know how to explain it. I said, just one, I guess. That night, I heard shouting down the hall. Same voice. Mark. I cracked my door and peeked out. He was banging on someone else's door, drunk, slurring, yelling about getting his shit back. The woman next door told him to leave or she'd call the cops. He kicked her door once, then stumbled down the stairs, mumbling. 2 days later, there was a knock at my door. I almost didn't open it. It was Claire. I hadn't seen her in months. Since before the whole couch fiasco. She looked tired, like someone who hadn't slept well in a while. Hey, she said. I heard what happened. I nodded. I figured. She held up a plastic grocery bag. Inside was one of my hoodies, one I'd been missing, and a couple DVDs. He left some stuff at my place.
Thought you might want these back. I'm sorry.
He's spiraling. I didn't know what to say. She looked past me into the apartment. He said you were spying on him, that you called his job. What? He got fired last week. Said it was because of you.
Ist zerte her.
I haven't even spoken to him since I changed the locks. She nodded slow.
Yeah.
I didn't think so. Just watch your back, okay? He's not stable right now. After she left, I sat down on the couch, the same one he used to sleep on, and felt this weird chill go through me. Like maybe this wasn't just about a couch or a poker game. Like maybe I'd stepped into something deeper without realizing it. Because the next night, someone tried the door. Not knocked, tried to open it. I heard the handle rattle at 2:13 a.m. I froze in bed, barely breathing. It only lasted a second. Then footsteps, quick, down the hall. I didn't sleep after that. And the worst part? I started wondering if I'd pushed too far. If maybe kicking him out had triggered something in him. Something I didn't see coming. A few days after the door handle incident, I decided to buy a cheap security camera. One of those small Wi-Fi ones you stick to the top of your door frame. It wasn't fancy, but it sent alerts to my phone and recorded short clips. Just enough to give me some peace of mind. The first 2 nights, nothing happened. Then on the third, around 3:40 a.m., I got a ping on my phone while I was lying in bed. I opened the app. There he was. Mark, in a hoodie with the drawstrings pulled tight around his face, standing right outside my door. He didn't knock. He didn't say anything. Just stood there, staring at the peephole, like he could see through it. Then he bent down, leaned in close to the keyhole, and whispered something I couldn't hear. The video caught the whole thing, but the sound was too low to make out. He stood up, looked directly at the camera like he knew it was there, smiled, and walked off. That smile stayed with me for hours. Not the kind that says, you caught me. The kind that says, I'm not done. I took the footage to the building manager. She looked uncomfortable, said she'd talk to him. But a week passed and nothing changed. Then came the envelope. It was under my doormat when I came home from work. No name, just a blank white envelope. Inside was a printed photo of me, standing on my balcony, drinking coffee. It wasn't a professional shot. It looked like it was taken from a phone, zoomed in, maybe from the building across the lot. On the back, someone had written, "Nice morning routine." That was the moment it turned from annoying to terrifying. I called the police. Filed a report. They said unless he'd made a direct threat or physically tried to break in, there wasn't much they could do. I showed them the video and the photo. They took copies. Told me to stay alert.
So I stopped sleeping right.
I bought blackout curtains. I changed my routine. I stopped going onto the balcony. Every creak in the hallway felt like a warning. One night, I went out to take the trash down to the dumpster, and when I came back up, just 3 minutes later, there was a fresh post-it on my door. 3 words, written in slanted, shaky letters. Still watching you. I didn't tell anyone after that. Not the cops, not the manager. I didn't even text Claire back when she asked if things had calmed down. I just went quiet, focused on surviving. Then, 2 weeks later, I was leaving for work when I saw him. Mark was sitting on the steps outside the back entrance to the building, smoking, staring straight ahead. He looked thinner, paler. His eyes were sunken. But the moment he saw me, he stood up, dropped the cigarette, and smiled that same smile. "You know," he said, like we were picking up an old conversation, "you didn't have to make it a war. You could have just let me stay." I didn't answer. I just walked past him. He called after me, "You think you've won, but you don't even know what this is yet." I got into my car, locked the door, and sat there for a minute, gripping the steering wheel. Because for the first time since it all started, I realized something. This wasn't about the couch, or the poker game, or even the eviction. This was about control. And somewhere along the way, I had taken something from him, something he thought he had over me. And he was going to make I started looking over my shoulder everywhere I went. At work, I kept checking the parking lot through the break room window, just to see if he was out there. I started parking in different spots each day, mixing up my routine, like I was being hunted. Because honestly, that's how it felt. One morning, I came downstairs and saw the back windshield of my car had been shattered. Glass everywhere. Nothing stolen. Just broken. The cops came again. They made a report, but same story, no cameras, no witnesses, no real way to prove anything. I knew it was Mark. But knowing and proving aren't the same. I stopped going into work after that. My boss was understanding, let me work from home full-time. I didn't leave the apartment unless it was necessary. I started ordering groceries instead of going out. I didn't want to run into him. Didn't want to see that face again. One night, maybe around 11, I was brushing my teeth when I heard a loud bang against my window. I live on the 2nd floor. There's a small tree out front, but no balcony, no ledge. I rushed to the window, heart racing. Nothing. But when I turned off the lights, I saw it, a red laser dot on the wall. Moving. Steady. I ducked down. Crawled to the other side of the room. Called 911, whispering into the phone. Cops came, looked around. No sign of anyone. But they didn't treat it like a threat. Said it was probably just some kids playing with a laser pointer. I knew better. The next day, I called a friend of mine, Gina, someone I hadn't talked to much during all this. She lived across town. I told her everything. Not just about the poker game or the locks, but the harassment, the photos, the whispers at the door, the windshield, the laser. She didn't say anything for a while. Then she said, "You need to get out of there."
Like now.
I told her I couldn't afford to break the lease. That I'd already sunk money into the new locks, the security camera, fixing the car. She said, "Then come here. Sleep on my couch. We'll figure it out." But I didn't. I stayed. Because part of me didn't want to leave my own place like a coward. It felt like giving up, like letting him win. That was a mistake. A week later, I got home from a quick run to the store and noticed my front door was cracked open. Just slightly. Like someone had tried to pull it shut behind them, but didn't quite manage. I froze. I hadn't left it open. I know I hadn't. I stepped inside slowly, heart pounding. Everything looked normal.
Couch. TV.
Kitchen light still on. But when I turned the corner into my bedroom, I saw it. My laptop was open. The screen was black, but the light was on.
I hadn't used it that day.
And my closet wide open. Clothes pulled down. My drawer half open, with the contents dumped onto the floor. Like someone had been looking for something. I backed out of the room and called the police again. This time, they took it more seriously. Filed it as a possible break-in. They asked if I suspected anyone. I gave them Mark's name. They said they'd look into it. But nothing happened.
No arrest.
No charges.
No updates.
The next morning, my camera caught another video. Mark, standing in the hallway, holding my spare apartment key in his hand. The one that used to be on top of the fridge before I changed the locks. He smiled at the camera again. And then he dropped the key onto the floor, turned, and walked away. He was telling me he'd been inside. That he could still get in. That I wasn't safe, even now. And I realized something awful. This wasn't just about scaring me anymore. This was about showing me that nothing I did could stop him. I couldn't sleep after I saw that video. I watched it again and again. Him holding the key. The way he smiled, casual, like it was a game. Like this was all just a joke he was enjoying. I called the police again. Showed them the footage. This time, the officer actually looked concerned. He said it could be considered stalking now, especially since there was evidence of unauthorized entry. They opened an investigation. I gave them everything I had, videos, the photo, the notes. Still, they told me there was no guarantee they'd arrest him. No guarantee they could even prove he used the key. And since I'd already changed the locks, they couldn't stop him from being in the building unless I had a restraining order. That would take weeks. So, I started staying at Gina's place a few nights a week. She had a pull-out sofa, and her apartment felt like another world. Quiet. Normal. I didn't tell her everything. Just enough, so she knew not to open the door if anyone knocked. Then one morning, I woke up to 10 missed calls. All from my building manager. The voicemail was short. Shaky voice. You need to come here. Something's happened. I got there within the hour. The front lobby was roped off with yellow tape. A cruiser parked out front. 2 officers standing near the mailboxes. I found the manager outside, pacing. What happened? I asked. She looked pale. Your unit. Someone broke in again. But they didn't take anything. Then what? She hesitated. They left something. The officers let me in. The apartment was dark. Cold. Like someone had opened the windows on purpose. I walked into the living room and froze. On the coffee table, dead center, was a ceramic coffee mug. One I hadn't seen in months. It had a small chip on the handle. It used to be Mark's favorite mug, the one he brought from his old apartment. The one he always used while crashing at my place. Inside it, half filled, was black coffee. Still warm. Next to it was a sticky note. You can't kick me out of what's already mine. I stood there, shaking. Not from fear, something worse. That deep kind of dread where you feel your own body start to shut down. Like your brain can't believe what your eyes are seeing. He hadn't just broken in. He'd sat down. Poured a cup. Left a message. I checked the kitchen. One of my spoons was in the sink, wet. The fridge door was open just a crack. He'd made himself at home. I didn't even bother asking how he got in this time. I knew. And that's when I realized he wasn't just obsessed with getting revenge. He wanted me to feel what he felt the night he lost control, when Claire threw him out, when I changed the locks, when no one let him back in. He didn't want his stuff. He wanted his power back. And he thought the only way to get it was to take mine. Bit by bit. Until I broke. And I was getting close. I moved out 3 weeks later. Left the lease, left most of my furniture, just took what I could fit in the car. I sleep with a bat next to the bed now. I double-check every lock, every window, even when I'm just going to the mailbox. And I haven't told anyone this, but sometimes, when the apartment's too quiet, I still hear the front door handle move. Just once. Like he's still out there, waiting to be let back in. And the worst part is, a small part of me still feels guilty for changing the locks.